do a lot of press relations for both GDEX and Multivarious. And I am joined by various members of the press today. So I'm going to just have them go down the line and talk a little bit about themselves for a moment.
My name is Ben Kachera. I currently work at Polygon, and I've been writing about video games for about 12 or 13 years now at various outlets.
And I'm Alex Diddy with 1812 Columbus. We don't cover video games exclusively. It's Columbus's newest media property here. But we do cover the local community and creators and things, and the gaming community fits in there. So excited to talk to this group here.
And I am Brad. I run the YouTube channel Swanky Box. So I do a lot of analytical gaming content. A lot of it can be centered around new releases of games and stuff like that, kind of generating hype around specific topics. But yeah, I'm the YouTube side of it.
Yeah, and I think that that actually brings up kind of the first point of why I brought this panel together, why this panel got brought together, is that I think that it covers a really good facet that, particularly from an indie game development standpoint, you really want to be hitting, and that's kind of the bigger national news and Polygon, and the more, gaming-centric news. We have local news, so kind of hitting up your Columbus representatives, and then YouTube, which is becoming a very strong kind of the YouTube and Twitch streaming side of things are becoming just as important as your traditional press. So I think the first question that I want to ask you guys is more of a kind of when you write a story, and it doesn't, not even a story that's pitched to you, but kind of what are you looking for and what really catches your eyes just as you're trying to create good content?
I think if you have so many options about what to write about, and when you pick a story and you're going to work on it for however long, you're saying no to everything else. So it always feels very weighty, even if it's like a very lighthearted topic. I want something that excites me. I want something that makes me interested. Because if I don't have that initial spark, I'm not going to be able to give it to the reader. Like I can't take something boring and punch it up and make it exciting. That's, the developer's job. That's PR's job. So if I want to write something, I want to make sure that I am feeling an emotion that I want to share with the reader. It could even be a negative emotion, because you write about sad games, you write, intense things sometimes. But you have to have that initial spark of emotion that you're going to be able to communicate, or else it's just going to be flat and no one's going to care.
And I think that that's a super important part also is going through and pitching the games, is that you kind of have to know who you're pitching to. So, if you have somebody who covers Steam games or games for the PC or whatever, you don't want to pitch your latest mobile game to them, because more than likely they won't be excited about that. So yeah, I think that's a super valid topic of just making sure that you know who you're actually writing to and who you're talking with. But
yeah, and that's really where we come from. We have a very specific niche audience that we're writing to, so anything we're writing, we have to make the consideration of how it's going to be of interest to them and how it's going to resonate within that community. Our gaming coverage is something we're interested in because we feel there's no content around the gaming community in a local sense. Nationally, there's great coverage, right? But there are some really impressive people doing some really impressive things here locally, but no one's really talking about it outside of the immediate circle. So that's something that we feel when stories are coming to us, we think, how can this be addressed to Columbus as a whole to really showcase the cool gaming community here locally.
yeah.
And for me, I'm a writer first and foremost, so any of my video ideas start as video scripts, and they are essentially just a video essay or an essay. All of them are about 2,000 words, and they all come to about 10 minutes in length. So for me, when I'm choosing to, a topic to write about, first and foremost, it's what I'm inspired about. What are my passions? What things am I interested in? Because if I don't do that, then my audience is going to be like, why are you doing this? You're obviously not passionate about this. Because I'll tell right away. I mean, they can read the human emotion when I'm on camera. Second, it's like, I do like to cover up-and-coming things, but also mix it in with nostalgia pieces. So I am very, aware of what's coming out, what people are searching for, things of that nature, to stay relevant, to bring new eyeballs to the channel who can appreciate my older content. So when I'm choosing games to write about, I'm looking for what are people are searching for. What of these games that I could choose from am I most interested in? And how can I make this a enjoyable video that someone may share that may also bring new people to the channel, but also maybe bring new eyeballs to that game?
Yeah, I think that's great. Brad, I'm going to actually bring it back to you for a second. So when you are like kind of looking at what games have you been like pitched games before? Do people typically come to you, and is that something that you typically do? Or I know that you like to kind of keep in like you were saying earlier, like the kind of newer and nostalgic, but how do you typically handle when somebody pitches their game to you from like the YouTube side of things?
It's all about the delivery. I mean, if someone's pitching me a game and they don't care who I am or know what I do, then the conversation isn't a human conversation. They're just trying to get something out of me. And I think it's apparent right away because those people use automated emails. Now, I'm not saying automated emails are bad, but like there's nothing human about it. They don't know what I do. They haven't even bothered to learn. They just like have an email script. They're like, hey, I like this video. They pick a random video. They throw it on there. They're like, by the way, we're making this game. Like, and like, well, it's all, so, you know, it's, I guess, you know, as a YouTuber, you get tons of these. I mean, inbox is full of them. And the ones that stick out to me are the people who appreciate and know what I do. And in the games that fit me. Like if you're reaching out to me, I swear I get like poker invites all the time. That people, hey, cover our new poker mobile game. Like one, I don't play mobile games. Two, like I don't even know what a card game is. Like they're looking for numbers and for influencer marketing campaigns. I understand their perspective. They're trying, you know, they were hired by a company. They're trying to get a certain number of eyeballs on a certain product. But the thing is, they're failing because they're not considering that the other person on the other side of the screen is a person, is a human, and they have their own interests. And it's also interesting too because they don't. This bothers me about influencer marketing campaigns as well, is that they look at the numbers, but they don't realize, like, sure, I can do your poker video. You know, people may see it. No one's going to buy it because the people I've attracted to my channel aren't interested in that. You're trying to pitch a product to people who aren't interested in your product because it's just the wrong audience.
It's always funny when I get those automated emails where it's like, I see you've written about arcade sticks. We are working on it. Like, that was 8 months ago, and it was like a little blur. Like, why? That's such a random ass thing. I'm always tempted when that happens to email the developer and be like, you are paying money for shit PR. Like, just take the hundreds of thousands of dollars you're spending on this PR campaign and just burn it because you're getting nothing out of it. Whenever I talk about automated PR, I swear people leave and like will fire their PR company because it's so bad and there's so much of it. And I tell people, like, if you put 3% more effort into being a human being and being passionate about your game, you will be better than 99% of the pitches we get. And like those numbers aren't hyperbole or exaggeration. Most pitches are so bad. And it's just chaff they throw out there and it clogs your inbox and it's just delete, 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 delete.
And it's usually from people who have no experience in games. Like you could tell right away they don't play video games. They don't have an interest in it. They're just trying to
get that audience.
They're just trying to get that audience because like they were hired to promote a product or a game, and it backfires every single time. And to make matters worse, like all the big marketing conventions are focusing on influencer marketing for 2017, 2018. And all of them are approaching it from a weird angle, and it's going to just misinform people, create tens of thousands of more of those exact same companies who are reaching out to us, like super influencers, whatever, and it's just going to perpetuate the same behavior, and no one's going to understand. Like, yes, there is power in influencer marketing if everything makes sense, but they're going to basically inflate it, and then it's going to pop. And then people will be like, well, actually, this wasn't that effective at all. Why were we even focusing on this? When really there was potential there. You just have to pay attention to who you're pitching to.
So my background actually is in influencer marketing, and it's really funny because it comes from people panic, right? And they're like, oh, we need to make this connection. We need to get these numbers. We need to get this big reach. So I'm going to work with this influencer because he has, 1 million followers. But what's lost in all of that, and what's lost in this conversation about how to pitch the press is you're talking to people, and at the end of the day, you're just trying to create a dialogue. You're trying to make a connection here so that way he can make a connection to an audience, right? And it's all just trying to make those one-to-ones, and people get confused with these numbers, right? And they think, oh, if you have 1 million followers, that means I have 1 million fans. But no, it's way more valuable if you can find that person who maybe only has 1,000 followers, but has a much more connected audience, and they're much more deep with those people. It's
Without like throwing anyone personally to the wolves, I think we saw that a lot at last E3, where companies hired like YouTube people who were screwdrivers, and they're like, go hammer. And it's like, what do you like? These are very talented people. You don't become popular on YouTube without being good at what you do. They're really talented people, but they're being paid to be put in a position to do something they're unfamiliar and uncomfortable with, and it backfires. Like, hire the person who's good at doing the thing you want to do that will actually help make your product look good. These people exist. Like, do a little bit of research. Like, if someone was like, I will pay you X amount of dollars to, like, I don't know, ride a unicycle, I would take the money. It would be horrible unicycle riding. But that's the job. Like, it's shocking that the amount of money they're throwing around for some of these things, and they're not doing the research to make sure it's spent effectively. It's frustrating.
There's some people that get into playing games because they enjoy playing games, but then like a company reaches out, it's like, hey, we have this launch. We want you to go on stage. We want you to present all these features in this game. Talk about this new angle to this, because this is, say this is a game has multiple iterations, and this is the newest version. And these people get up there. They've never done this before. They have zero on-stage experience, and they're supposed to be rifling through this stuff like an experienced sales rep who's pitching all the benefits of the product. They have no emotional investment in the product itself, and it just, like you said, it just backfires, and people are like, what is going on? And plus, beyond that, they can't be themselves. Like, they're hired because they have big numbers and people like the personality, but as soon as they get on that stage, you're like, okay, here's your script. You can't say anything that's not in the script. I mean, like, I've gotten like brand deals and stuff where I get a huge list of words that I can't say. And it's like, what? I mean, I'm not going to go out of my way to say anything negative, but like, I'm going to be talking like a robot if I have to dodge all these, especially like if I'm ad-libbing it, I'm not reading from a script, then it butchers the entire, the humanity out of it, and you were just a talking puppet that people are looking at.
So what words aren't you allowed to say? I'm curious, like, just give us some examples without connecting them. Is there anything safe you can give us that's specific? Because I'm so fascinated
I'm not
by
talking about
that.
any particular brands, but sometimes cheap. So cheap.
Oh, yeah.
So, but the
They
thing
don't want
is,
to be
like,
like associated with that.
they don't want to be associated with the word cheap, even though the product they're offering is a cheaper alternative, and people want to save money, but they're like, well, cheap can be a double entendre. It's like, well, of course I'm not going to say, hey guys, this is cheap, it's going to break. I'm going to say like, hey, you can save some money and stuff like that. But there's like words like that can have like sort of
Interesting.
double meaning, and I understand why they do it. But then with those words, they typically like group in like weird things where like, oh, you have to say it this way. If you're going to talk about this product, make sure you lead in to your discussion with these two sentences, and then you can do whatever you want. And it's very strange.
Talk about it the way you want to talk about it.
Yeah, it's like basically here's your script, read it, dance for us, kind of thing. And it's like it's strange because it doesn't work, and I don't understand how they have to see the results of the campaigns and know it's not working. I guess a clear indicator is the people that reach out to me for these things probably either fall out of business or they don't reach out again because obviously it didn't work.
So I think that, Ben, you said something really interesting earlier where you were kind of like, typically when I talk about game marketing, I make them quit. And so I want to go back to that for just a second and try to flip this conversation around where like, okay, cool. So you've made the indie developer fire their marketing company.
Sure.
And we've already learned like the number one thing that you can do is do research on your kind of the person who you're influencing, or do research on influencers for your product, right? So what are some other tips that we can go there? Like, I know personally the crazy thing that so my background's in communications and PR and stuff like that, and so that was the big thing that they always shoved down my throat, is like, you gotta have a catchy headline or else they're gonna delete it immediately. But like, what are the actual things that matter when you're looking through an email? What makes you not just go and delete it instantly?
I mean, a good subject line matters.
Yeah.
It's the same way I spend so much time crafting headlines for stories. Like, I literally count I give myself 5 words to get someone's attention in a headline. That there has to be some kind of hook there. There has to be a word that elicits an emotion. There has to be a name of a game that's popular. There has to be some tension that could even be released in the second half of the sentence, but you have to get them in 5 words. And emails are kind of the same way. Like, you have to break out of that robotic marketing speak. And indie devs sometimes think writing press releases like their EA makes them seem bigger than they are, which is like you are taking on all the weaknesses of a AAA company without having any of the budget. You have just screwed yourself 2 ways. Like that, why would you do that?
Sure.
Your advantage is you can say whatever you want about your product because you own it. That's great.
Yeah.
So say something interesting. It's the weirdest thing. Stories of failure people love. If you overcame a serious problem during the production of your game, that's like a hook. People love reading about failure. People love reading about overcoming something that doesn't seem like you could overcome it. And I'm not saying like go set your studio on fire and then you have a story, but like, yeah, it would be a story. But like, but find those hooks. Find something interesting. Find that thing that I can turn into a headline and sell to the audience. Because, and I said this in my presentation earlier, my product is the story. I'm not trying to sell your game. I'm trying to get people to click on my story. The cool thing is, if it's a positive story about your game, I'm going to sell the hell out of my story, which is going to help sell the hell out of your game. But for that to work and to get a lot of readers, like you said, it really has to be organic. Mm-hmm. Like you can't fake it. I can't fake writing about a game if I don't like it. So be human. Find that hook. Find that one thing that your game does better or stranger than everything else on the market. And if your game doesn't have that thing, I mean, that's a bigger problem.
Yeah.
But like you do have to have that thing that your game does, that emotion it elicits, that whatever the hook is there.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point. Even aside from the game itself, kind of the story behind the game, kind of your whether struggles or triumphs, whatever it is, but telling that story, that kind of human focus, is something that makes the job of the writer a lot easier because, you know, like you said, we're trying to get clicks on the article. That's our product, and if you can make our life easier by telling us that story, then we're more likely to produce on that. And that's something that it resonates with the audience because everyone likes that story. I mean, if you look at the way Vice is creating content, people, you know, like that. They are attracted to that because they're telling, you know, meaningful stories. It's not just, you know, a press release on, hey, these are the cool features. There's some value behind that, and they're talking about the benefits more. So I think that's a really good point there.
And videos are the same thing. I mean, basically, you have your title, and then instead of people reading it, you're telling them it. So your title, you have to hook them right away because you don't know if they're gonna get the notification on their phone or see it in search results, and like you only get 4 words because the title gets cropped off. So you have to instill what it is. That's why even in my thumbnails, I double down and I put like sort of like an interesting image that catches their eyes, plus a couple extra filler words or something that also, like, in case they don't even read the title, they can see the thumbnail and get an idea of what the video is about. And then deliver on that, because if also for me is if I don't deliver on whatever I'm promising in the title, then this is going to blow up in my face. People aren't going to watch the video; they're going to drop off right away. So I craft a story based around you know, meaning behind the title.
I always think it's interesting with titles because sometimes people are like, you know, the headline for the story, Ben, is very clickbaity. And I was like, for one, yes, I'm trying very hard to get you to click on my stories. That's literally my business model. So just to get that out of the way. But to me, the definition of clickbait is a headline that doesn't provide what it promises. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I will use tricks from headlines people consider clickbaity, but there's 1,200 words after it that actually explain the entire thing. I promise you something and then I give it to you. And I feel like the more you're able to deliver in the story, the further you can go with the headline. Yeah. But once they click, if they don't connect with it, that gamble doesn't pay off.
Yeah, the title is like, you ever watch those movies where they show you like a really intense scene and then it's like, it rewinds back to the beginning and how they got there? That first part's your title, and then the part after it is delivering on whatever that title was. So think of it that way, like in terms of clickbait. Like yeah, you're going to use, maybe you'll phrase things differently because you want people to click it. Because if you just say what it is, an interview with X game designer, people are going to scroll past it. If you talk about a strength about that interview, like game designer, I mean, I'm not sure how you would word it, but like if they give a critical story piece, maybe it's something that hasn't been talked about elsewhere, or something that people be like, oh, that's interesting, I didn't know about that.
Game designer studio caught on fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's what a developer sets fires for coverage.
The sad thing is, I would run that story. Like, my first thought was I would actually run that story, and then I just felt terrible about myself. So
Hey,
that's
this one's on you from GDEX. That's awesome though. So let's go back. So what are some interesting things that you guys have gotten from these? Be it from indies kind of trying to be a bit more creative or not trying to kind of imitate the EAs, or even just maybe it's the bigger studios trying to more imitate the feel of like an indie kind of thing. Like what interesting things have you gotten that you've kind of maybe you would have originally would have passed by it, but you saw something that popped out.
Well, I don't know if this totally answers the question, but what has popped out, the most specific relevant answer to this is we did a little preview piece on GDEX leading into the week, and a lot of people kind of proactively reached out to us about meeting here and doing some coverage here, and I respected kind of the proactiveness to it, but it wasn't just these generic, hey, I'm here, you need to come see me, I want to do a story. They gave much more of a specific reason why we should come check things out, and kind of gave that reason. I don't want to say anyone in particular, but kind of giving us more of an experience to come here, where it's not just, hey, hey, I'm here. It's, hey, I have this, VR game that's unique for these reasons, and would love to tell this story. I think even just the proactiveness of it, we respect, because it makes our jobs a little easier. But yeah, I don't know if that totally answers the question.
No, that's perfect.
Yeah.
I think, and I wish I had it here with me, the email that the team behind the mobile game Threes sent out, pitching that game, is like the platonic ideal of a pitch, because I forget what the subject line was, but it was super good. Like, in a first paragraph that was clearly written knowing me. It's like, oh, I heard on Twitter you just had to move. Like, I hope you're settling in. Anyway, we've also been taking a little bit of vacation and working on this side project, and it's called Threes. And we think we have a code down there. We think if you give it 30 seconds, you will give it 2 hours. And then, like, underneath it, they had, like, a little GIF that, like, showed the game in action, and it just illustrated threes. And once I saw, like, 2 seconds of threes being played, I was like, shit, I need to play that game. And then I played it, and I was like, that's such a good pitch. Like, everything they did was right. It's, if you have something your game does super well, like, just adding a GIF in the email is amazing. If you have a good death animation, if you have a super satisfying mechanic, if you have something unique and you can just show it off very quickly in the email, that's so effective. Because sometimes you will see even a tiny clip of a game and instantly think, I really want to play that game. Mm-hmm. Like, that one clip. Like, you could show a 2 second like animation from Fez, and you're gonna go, oh shit, I see why that game took off. Find whatever that animation is in your game and show it off.
I would say also treat it like a conversation. Like, I mean, have you encountered those people who just want to talk all about themselves, or just tell you what they're doing and don't give you any time to talk or care about what you're doing? Don't be that person in an email. Like, actually have a genuine conversation. Introduce elements, talk a little bit about yourself, the process and stuff like that. As long as there's like, I can get a sense that you are a genuine person and that you're working on something you're passionate about. Obviously, I'm working on things I'm passionate about. Like, I will be more willing to hear you out. And I think that's the thing. A lot of us, we lose our humanity. We think like we have to have these 3 bullet points because they might stop reading the email. That may be true, but if you're just trying to get those out, like, getting a message to someone doesn't do you any good if the message doesn't matter to them. And it's the same thing like me pitching a product in my video or a game in my video that my fans aren't passionate about. Like, know who your audience is, know how to approach them, spend time to get to know what they like. I mean, some of the emails I respond to were people who actually talked about a different game in their email other than their game. And they sort of it was cool because like we could nerd out about a video I made, and then then we just started talking about what we were doing, and then like turns out they're working on a game. Like, okay, cool, what's it about? And like, I like those. I like having that human interaction, and I think it goes a long way.
It's also time consuming. I mean,
Yes, yeah.
we talk about these things like, oh, just write an individual email for every member of the press and get to know everything. Like, if you don't know their wife's favorite color or their husband's favorite color or their partner's favorite color, you're not going to like this does take time. And we have to be cognizant of that fact, and you have to balance it. Like, when people are saying, oh, I can't afford marketing, I can't afford a PR person, it's like, but you can afford a programmer. You can afford an artist. You can afford a musician. Marketing is just as important. You can't launch a game without code or an engine. You also aren't going to do well launching a game without marketing. Like, it is as important as the other things you consider to be necessary. And somehow it's gotten into the minds of a lot of developers that this is something you can cut out of your budget. It's not.
It's like,
Go
like
ahead.
having if you were to like build a car, but then you have no fuel for it to run on. Like, marketing is your fuel to get that moving, so people can actually see it. If you have, I mean, like if you make a cool game, but the room you're standing is empty and you can't talk to anyone about that game or show them that game, then it doesn't matter that you have a cool game because no one's going to know it exists.
And sometimes it's like, I tell people, if you have a 10-person team, get everyone in a room and practice cold approaches to people if you were at PAX or E3. And like, if someone is really good at it, you're like, I got really bad news for you. You're our marketing person now. and often there will be someone on your team that, surprisingly enough, is good at this, or even just better than everyone else. That might be as good as you can get. And just having that person be the face or help writing marketing copy and find that talent within your team without paying more, like, make people try out for more responsibility. So it kind of sucks for them, but it's possible you have that talent on your team and you just don't know it yet.
It's like you knew how I landed my position in doing that.
Is that how you did it?
Yeah, I'm the approachable one who goes up and randomly talks to people. Or I took over a panel earlier because the guy didn't show up. It's like, okay, cool. Like, yeah, you're gonna start doing press releases, and it's like, okay, I have somewhat of an education in that, but sure, why not? And go talk and put together press stuff.
Man,
but
just be less enthusiastic, and then you'll have way less job.
I know. I just got to be a lot more mopey, apparently. But no, and I think that's really good what you were saying earlier of just like, yeah, you got to really shoot for the quality over quantity in this, because there's definitely been times that, even in internal conversations with my team, it's like, hey, why aren't you sending an email to this person? It's like, that would be, even if it takes, that 3 seconds just to like copy and paste and send, that's a waste of 3 seconds that I could be doing on something else. And like, because there is very small chance that they're even going to look at that and go, oh, wow, yeah, that's something that I don't care about, but yeah, that sounds cool, I'll do it. Or just because, I think that when people do writing and when they do the more creative side of things, they're doing that because it's something that they love. And so it's not like, hey, I write all about strategy games, but as soon as I'm done writing, that I go to like, I don't know, Candy Crush. All games kind of broke my mind right there. But you don't when you're writing something, and this is for everything, game developers who make, or particularly indie developers who make, first person shooters, they might not be huge fans of puzzle games or something like that. And so I think that you need to approach that the same way with press, where, if you could be really into mobile games, and that's awesome. But, if Ben's not into mobile games, then don't pitch it to him, because that's like walking up to a party, in the middle of the middle of an OSU football game and just being like, hey, so how about Michigan, huh? Yeah, they're pretty great.
That sounds like a relevant sports reference.
Yeah.
I
close
agree,
enough.
because those teams don't like each other. Is that the
I'm
thing?
pretty sure. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm trying
Sports
to
ball?
expand out.
Well done.
Yeah.
Actually,
Home run. That's a sports.
That was a slam dunk.
Ooh.
I actually have 2 thoughts on that. So
Yeah.
the thing is, also if you do that, know that every email that you're sending out is on fire, and you're gonna burn that bridge.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, if I've been reached out by people who keep saying, "Hey, play our poker game. Hey, play our poker game," but then they actually reach out with a cool game, I'd be like, "No, you guys don't care about me," even though like the game could have been awesome.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be like, "No, you guys are already on my block list because you don't care about me. And on top of that, when you're in person at conventions and you're talking to someone you may want to work with, for me, like I'm viewed as a social entity, or people call it, YouTubers, influencers, and stuff like that. Do not refer to me as a number. That is the most dehumanizing thing. I've been introduced to people as a number. This is so and so. He has X amount of followers,
Jesus.
and it's just like, are you kidding me?
Like that's the validating factor.
Yeah, yeah. Not only
Here's
not only,
this commodity we'd like to pay for.
Not only like it's horrible because like one, it changes the perception of everything in that moment. Two, you don't feel like a human. Three, the person who just introduced you is just using you, one, to better themselves in the social situation, but now it's like, cool, we can't even have a conversation now. And it's so don't do that. Or just be aware, and you'll see people who do it. You may be standing near someone at a booth, and then you'll see someone come up. You may not know who they are, but like as soon as I do that, it's just like, come on.
I remember one of the best pitches, and I think it just came up in a conversation. Zach Gage, who did Spell Tower, which sold a few copies. We were talking about it. He was like, I'm working on a mobile game. And he was like, and like, I hate word games. So I decided to make a word game because I thought it would be interesting to make something in a genre I despised. And I was like, stop. That's my story. Like, you designed a game in a genre you hated.
Yeah.
Like, so what good did you find in there? How did you dig through the stuff you're turned off by to find the thing you're energized by? Like, I got so excited about learning about that process, and it came through in the story, and we got on the Spell Tower train, like, really early, and the story did super well. And, like, that wasn't even a pitch. That was just a conversation, and he was talking about interesting things about his process.
Yeah, it comes back to that kind of human connection. You're not a number. You're talking to people and finding that relevant story that can be told there. That's really cool.
There's this idea that there's like the indie mafia, and they're just like, they're always in, and like we just throw them coverage because they're super cool people. But the reality is they are very, very, very good at communicating what is good about their games. Every single piece of coverage they get, they earn because they are that good. Like, I will show you their pitches. I will prove it to you. This is not a gimme for them.
Yeah.
They work.
Be a cool story in and of itself.
Yeah, they work exceedingly hard and are exceedingly effective at selling their games. When Crossy Road, before it came out, they gave it to a few developers, and there's like a button, and you tweet your high score. So like a few like big developers just started tweeting Crossy Road images, and I was like, what is that? Like George Broussard, who made Duke Nukem randomly on Twitter, I asked him, like, what is that? He's like, oh, it's Crossy Road. You can hook up with these guys, and they'll probably give you a copy. And they were like, yeah, it's Crossy Road. We wanted to make like a Frogger, but it looks like Minecraft, and we wanted to use Flappy Bird because we think all those things would be very positive in the marketplace and sell a lot of copies. Do you want to try it? And I was like, you just handed me like the greatest story. And like we were on Crossy Road like so early, and Crossy Road blew up, and it was like a mobile dev who like called their shot so early, and it was so amazing, and they were so open about it. And that idea of like seeding a game that tweeted screenshots to influential developers, God, it's like diabolically good. And I can't even be mad because I legitimately think Crossy Road is a fun game.
Yeah.
Like,
Now-
super effective.
Now you can go to Target and get the little like Crossy Road cube plushie things. Have you guys seen those? I like walked in because what's the company that did that? It's something whale, right? Like I want to say like hipster whale. but I think-
I think Hipster Whale might be
yeah,
it.
yeah. But I walked into like it was like a Target or a Barnes and Noble or something. And lo and behold, there's like the little hipster male, like mascot in a bin with a bunch of other Crossy Road characters. And it's just that game exploded, like you said, from
Yeah.
just them sending it to, and they probably just send it to devs that they enjoy. Like, as a game
Yeah.
developer, we all have those developers who we aspire to, or those people who we aspire to in any creative field. So you're just like, hey, check out my game, it's cool.
And you
they
can
share it.
follow that roadmap perfectly, and it still might not work out for you. Like they just honestly had a lot of really good ideas and really well executed things, and all of the dice rolled correctly, and it paid off for them in an amazing way.
They
And
used clickbaity tactics, but they promised on it, right? Like
Right.
They followed
it
through.
it literally looks like a clone of like just a crap game that you would scroll past. Like, yes, it sounds like Flappy Bird. It looks like Frogger. It looks like Minecraft. The game is super fun, and it went viral for like all the right reasons. And I think they're like, we didn't put a lot of text in it so we could localize it everywhere. And it's like huge in China, and it's huge in Korea. And I moderated a panel with those two guys, and they're like, we're never talking about money after this, but we're at $10 million. And I was like, gee, like, God, what do you do after that? Why would first off, why would you do anything?
I mean, you make plushies.
Yeah, you make plushies.
You make plushies.
You make plushies. So yeah, and that's just an example of a lot of good hooks in using human connections and working it organically. And it probably didn't even feel like marketing to them. And in retrospect, when I tell the story, it sounds like the most wickedly effective marketing approach like anyone has ever had, and it paid off in a huge way.
Yeah, I think kind of going back to the whole burning bridges thing too, like just because you send an email to someone and they don't respond doesn't mean like, oh, they hated it. Like they could have, like you said, they could have had other things they were working on. As long as you're genuine in your emails, you can send emails over the course of a month, even about different things. So like when I make videos, I would typically send it out to certain authors and writers on blogs and stuff like that, because I know they're into that type of thing, and I've enjoyed their written articles. So I put two and two together, like, well, maybe you'll like this. And sometimes you get responses, sometimes you don't. And it doesn't mean that like if I'm my intentions aren't to, I guess, take something from them. If I'm just like, hey, this is something I find interesting, maybe you find interesting too. It's not a burned bridge, and don't take people not responding as end of a relationship, because you don't know if the next email you send could be like, oh, actually, yeah. Maybe they have time for that one. Maybe they're in a dry spell where they don't have a million ideas they're trying to work on. So just keep them going. As long as you're not spamming them or sending the same thing too. Just be genuine. Act like it's a conversation that you're picking up or something.
No, I think that's super good. Again, and I think all this just comes back to like understand who you're targeting, and both your audience and your, the influencers or whatever you're going after. I hate that word so much. It's like a dirty word when you say it. But yeah, like know that, okay, if this is, if I'm trying to pitch a game to, I can't not say your actual name. If I'm trying to pitch a game to Swanky Box, then I'm gonna know what type of game to pitch. And if I didn't hear back from them, like you said, you could just be busy. So I'm gonna try them a couple more times. Now, yeah, I'm not gonna send 20 emails over the course of like 3 weeks. Like, hey, I didn't hear from you. Hey, how you doing? But like, try a couple times, because if it's a game that you're genuinely enthusiastic for, which if you're making a game, I hope that you're excited for it, and I hope that you want this game to be good, or that you believe in this product. And if it's a game that you truly believe that this person would like as well, then that passion shows through when you're talking to people.
There's a multitude of things that can happen. Like I could get an email for a game. Oh, it's interesting. I click on it. Oh, I'm actually about to live stream. Then I forget about the email I saw. It's marked as read. So then I discover it in my inbox like a month later. I'm like, oh my gosh, I totally forgot to respond to this. Like, everyone's a human. Everyone gets distracted. So sometimes it takes that second email to, rekindle that fire, or really just start what have been there in the initial email if I wasn't busy during the time, or if something distracted me from actually following up.
There's a word I want to invent that means I waited too long to answer this email, and if I were to answer the email that I want to answer, I would have to own up to the fact that it took way too long and address it in some way. So I'm not going to do that. I see people nodding, and I think this is like a universal thing that happens.
Dude, that is the story of GDEX.
And every time I follow through on the email that I think is way too late and the other person's going to get mad, like 99% of the time, they're super happy. Yeah. It's like push through it, and like they obviously want to carry on that relationship, and that happens. You legitimately forget, and like a follow-up email is not inappropriate.
Hi.
Hey, how are you? What's up? Or here's another one that I think is funny, and this happens a lot, like way more than it should. Someone will send me an email, or I will like virally hear about a game, or someone will tweet something that makes me look up the developer, and then on their webpage I can't find an email address or a press contact, and I forget it forever. like that happens. You have like 30 seconds to get my attention, and I want to contact you and go, hey, I want to write about your game. Like, this is a really cool angle. And if I can't find that information, it's gone. That opportunity is gone because you have so many opportunities to choose from. For the love of God, make that information easy to find.
Yeah.
Use PressKit, which is an amazing tool that Rami Ismail developed that just makes getting all the information perfectly there for the press, and it's just fill in the blanks, and it will make my job so much easier. I love developers who use PressKit. It is amazing.
Yeah.
I try to like sell people on it all the time because it legitimately makes my life easier
Yeah.
writing about their game when they have
And
it.
that's the beautiful thing about PressKit in particular, because I was looking into implementing it and to our site as well, and it's one of those things that makes your life easier because it's drag and drop. Oh, hey, here's the screenshot section. Cool, it made a screenshot section. Like, here's your quick bio about your company. Here's the bio about the game. So it makes your life easy because it literally tells you what to put into your press kit, and then it makes your guys' life easy because not only is this like a format that you're now familiar with and you understand, and you can go, oh, cool, I know that I can scroll down to here, get a screenshot, and I'm ready to go. But you know that, oh, okay, cool, it's going to have contact information. I know that this stuff will be here. I know that, going into the bit more the deeper, like, people like to know about developers, or at least they like to get that inside look into development. So getting that, like, making sure that you get that team bio through PressKit or whatever is super important and interesting. And going back to your comment earlier, like, it's so important to have something on your website, and that's something that gets so overlooked by so many developers. Even my team, like, we go through and we completely forget about adding this link to our website to get to the press page, and next thing we know, it's like, oh, hey, we're 2 weeks away, and we're getting like all these press requests because we totally forgot about it until then, or like we've had it done forever and just didn't link it somewhere. And so really just taking the time and thinking about marketing. And I think that it goes back to the car analogy of just, this is the gas that is going to get you there. Like, building the car is a really good step, and it's a very important step, but it's not going to do you anything if it's just sitting in the driveway. So, yeah. Well, I think we have like 5 minutes. Yeah, we have roughly 5 minutes. So do you guys have like any last minute advice or tips that you would like to give to the developers that are out there or watching? Or yeah, it's a hard one.
There's so much. It's like the tragedy of this entire topic is you can do everything right, and you might not get a response because like the writer is hungover. That'll happen. It could be the perfect pitch and the person has a cold and they're not in that day and it gets lost in the flood. That could happen. You have to be creative, you have to be thoughtful, and you have to be relentless. And just keep at it, even though it seems like you're just screaming into the ocean. Like, at some point, if you do put passion into it, if you do just continue to send out good pitches and follow up emails and try to connect with people, eventually you will. And you never know where that's going to take you. Once someone covers your game, another site might cover the game, and then like streamers are reading these sites, and then they're streaming. Like, the value of a story written about your game is sometimes not just a bump in sales. I've talked to people who are like, yeah, you wrote a really good story about our game and we really appreciated it, and there wasn't a bump in sales, but 6 months later a publisher read it and they want to like, this is such a perfect fit for what we want to do next. Like, can we publish it? And they're like, and now we're in this amazing business relationship. You never quite know where the burn is on this or if it's even going to exist, but it's always worthwhile to try because you never know where the value is going to lead you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd say, that you got to be relentless. You got to have passion and not get discouraged when, a writer's hungover or anything like that. But I think if you have that passion and you can find that kind of human element and can tell that story and kind of tell the story of your passion, then things will work out for you. I think overall that's good, and you just have to just keep at it. That's really, at the end of the day, that's really what it's about for pitching or anything.
And I think my piece of advice is YouTubers and streamers do not adhere to a normal business schedule. So think about when you're sending your email, because I typically have my day planned out before, from wherever I'm working. So if an email comes through during that time, chances are I'm not going to stop what I'm doing to do it because I'm like, oh, I'm filming this, I'm editing during this time, I got to take this call at this time, I'm live streaming at the end of the day. That can make or break the email because again, I could click on it, get distracted. I actually prefer emails that come late in the evening. Sometimes, I mean, you can email me at 2 a.m. It will be the first thing I look at when I wake up.
Yep.
And that would be before I start my process. And that gives me more time to think about it. And actually, those are the ones that also it kind of I like it because I get a sense for that person. They're not like, whoa, I'm because I used to work 9 to 5 corporate America. I get why they send things during certain times of the day, but like I kind of like the idea of like someone's like, screw it, I'm gonna email him at midnight. And it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool. Like this guy, knows that like this guy's not using an automated system to send out the email as soon as 9 a.m. rolls around. He's like legitimately up. He's a night owl like me. Yeah, let's talk. I've even responded to people at 3 a.m. when they're up, and we've had candid conversations, and it's been awesome.
Oh, it's so funny. And when you respond, I'm always like, oh, yeah, this sounds great. Hit me up in like 2 days. And also, go to bed. And they're like, no, like I'm really on a roll with this stuff.
No,
and I'm
you go to bed. No,
getting
you go to
answers. And why are you answering this if you're telling me to go to bed? I'm like, I know, we're both horrible people.
Wait, hold on. I'm starting to see another headline.
Yeah.
All right. So I think that's pretty much time. But thank you guys so much for being a part of this and kind of helping developers in what I think is one of the hardest things to do for an indie developer. So,
Absolutely.
Sweet. Well, I hope you guys, thank you so much for coming out. Thanks for coming to GDEX.
Thank you so much.
We'll go from there.